Hey y'all, today I want to talk about ponds. Um, I'm no expert on ponds, but I have had a pond for, I'm going to say somewhere between 22 and 24 years. So I've learned a good bit about ponds over the years. Um, but I'm having a bit of a problem right now that I've never really experienced before. For the most part, as long as you keep the water, clear and clean, with your filters and plants and those kind of things, just regular yearly maintenance, you don't really have a problem for the most part, or I hadn't in my experience with disease and things. Sure, if you brought in a fish that you didn't, uh, separate, keep in quarantine for a couple of weeks to make sure it was fine, and you drop it in your pond and it had something wrong with it, you could spread something. But for the most part, I've, never experienced what I'm experiencing now. Um, I'm not exactly sure what is in the water, but for the past year, maybe year and a half, um, I've been losing fish, and I would just lose one here and there. And so, I mean, that's just a part of having a pond. I didn't really think a whole lot about it until maybe the past 6 to 8 months, because I started losing fish more rapidly. And of course, it was my bigger fish that died. I've lost some of the smaller ones too. And so, um, I'm treating the ponds now. I've been treating them on and off this whole summer, really, but I've not done it consistently, and I think that's been the problem. Um, I've tried different medicines over the years when I would have some type of problem, but, uh, since sometimes when one of my fish dies and I pull it out, I can't tell anything is wrong with it. But now I am noticing on some of the later ones that's died, I have, they've had like spots or sores or whatever. So since I'm not exactly sure what they have, I've been treating them with this. And because it, is supposed to cover a multitude of different diseases, and I have used the Malasheet green in my fish aquariums over the years when I'd have fish aquariums in the house. And so you're supposed to like change 25% of the water, and then you add some of this, and then every 8 hours you can change 25% and re-add it. And I've not been doing that. I don't think I would do it every 8 hours, even if I were to, maybe once each day in a 24-hour cycle, which is what I'm planning to do this time. I'm just going to, for the next 3 or 4 days, and, change 25% and add the medicine and see, because they do seem to be so much, it's like it relieves them when I, change a little bit of the water and add the medicine. So, we're just going to document this and see what happens with it, but I've hated that I've lost some of my fish, because some of the fish that I lost over the last year and a half, some of those I had for anywhere from 9 to 11 years. All the ones you're seeing in the pond right now are actually babies from the older fish that I have lost. Some of them were hatched out 2 years ago, and then there's a few that was hatched out 3 years ago. And it's only in this pond, which I totally don't understand. But I think I'm going to treat the other pond just in case. The smaller pond over here, I'm not having any problems with. Not losing any fish. They seem perfectly fine. And although this looks like 2 ponds, it is, looks like 1 pond, excuse me. It is 2 ponds. And so, I'm just gonna keep treating it and see what happens. But you know, even though you have fish and they're not really like pets, you know, when you've had one for 9, 10, 11 years, they really are like a pet because they get so used to seeing you, you know, that they will eat out of your hands. They'll suck food out from between your fingers. You know, they're not afraid of you. And you know, so being able to interact with them like that makes them seem more like, you know, more domesticated, I guess. But I don't know. Hopefully I don't lose any more fish. And maybe I can figure out what is actually going on in the water. Um, I've not really brought in fish. I have, well, I mean, I have over the last few years, but, you know, I'm pretty sure the pond that they came from was healthy. So, I don't know if, you know, if some other kind of, you know, critter brought something in. I have no idea. But anyways, and the water right now looks, this medicine makes the water blue. So, if you're seeing where it looks, you know, dark or whatever, it's just because of the medicine, because the water is actually crystal clear. I have a UV light, which is another thing. You know, you can let one cycle and not use a UV light when you first set up a pond, and it will do it every spring, in my experience, with the algae. But I do not like waiting those, you know, weeks for it to clear up, so, in the spring, so I just go ahead and use a UV light, and they're not that expensive. They're more expensive nowadays than they used to be. When I bought mine, I want to say maybe 4 years ago, it was only like $40 or $50. And I think now that same light has went up to around $100. So, but I mean, you know, it saves you a lot of trouble just hooking up the light and not having to worry about the algae at all. Because you pull it out during the winter time and you don't need it because the water's so cold, you're not having an algae. It's just not growing that way in the pond during the winter time, even here in the deep south. But, and in case you're wondering, I know I've showed the ponds in a couple of videos. In case you're wondering what that is strung across the top of the pond, I actually have it across both ponds. We live in the woods. And we also have a creek that runs down one side of our property. And you clearly can see that we are in the woods, you know. And so, it's that way all the way around our whole, you know, on the outer edges of our whole property. But, so, because of the creek, and then when there's also ponds on the neighbors' properties surrounding us, we have an owl problem. And if I don't keep fishing line, that's fishing line that you're seeing. If I don't keep fishing line strung across the top of the, you know, above the water, I will have owls during the night swoop down and take my fish. I've had that happen 2 or 3 times over the years that we've lived here. And, but if you string the fishing line, they won't do that because they can see it and they don't want to get tangled up in it. The great horned owl was the ones that kept coming and getting my fish before I figured this out. I just didn't want to use pond net, and I don't think that's attractive on top of the water, just covered with, you know, net, and I don't like it. This is a little more, you know, it's a little easier on the eyes than, you know, putting a net over the whole top of the pond. And so, I wish I didn't have to do it before we bought this property. You know, we didn't live where we were in the woods, but we also had no privacy on that property. And I didn't have to do this, but you know, it didn't take me long after we moved here in the woods to know that I needed to do something. And I actually found a video. I don't remember who the video was from, because that's been years ago. If I did, I would link it in the description, because it was such a relief when I found that video where somebody had done this and were not having any problem. Because the first night or two after I realized that there was a great horned owl getting my fish, the only wire I had was chicken wire, and so I had laid it across the pond, and it was so unattractive. I was like, I won't even have a pond if I'm gonna have to leave it this way. Anyways, I was so proud to find the one where they did the fishing line, and as long as I make sure the line, you know, it breaks every couple of years and you have to restring it. It only takes a few minutes, and I have to kind of keep a watch and make sure that the line is strung across here and there in different parts of the pond where it actually is, covering the whole pond, but not just, crazy kind of coverage. Just enough to deter the owls. And so I have biofilters set up, which I'm thinking, I'm hoping that maybe sometime this winter or before next spring, I'm thinking about either doing a waterfall on this side to this pond or doing a stream, because I've never had a problem with the smaller pond over there, and I think it's because I have a stream and I have the biofilter set up, and then I have plants in the biofilter and plants in the stream, and the combination of all of it, it's just extra purification for the water. And so I've never had a problem with that pond when it came to disease or anything. And so I'm thinking about doing just a small stream to this one so I can add plants. And I'm going to try to put some plants in here during the winter time, because the butterfly koi, and I'm assuming the regular koi too, it's hard to keep plants in there because they want to eat them, or they just they shred them once the fish get bigger. But I have watched Greg Whitstock on YouTube, who is a professional pond guy, and he says that if you will put your plants in your pond, as long as they're potted correctly, and then you put your plants in your pond during the winter months when the fish are not active and, just kind of staying on the bottom of the pond. And in the springtime, they really don't bother them that much. So I'm going to try that this year and see what happens, because I have way too many plants in this pond, because they've just multiplied so much. And you can't even see the fish between in there or in the stream. And then I have a small pond in the backyard that it doesn't have a pump or anything in it. I just really use it for water plants. And it has like water lilies, 2 or 3 different colors that have just completely taken over the pond. And so it's going to be fun getting in there and trying to pull those out this winter, because that's another thing I want to try to do and get it took care of. But anyways, I just wanted to do a quick little video on ponds, because I'll try to do one later with more information, maybe about the biofiltration system I've got set up on mine, and more about the UV light and all that. This one was just more focused on, pond diseases and how to treat them, and, trying to figure out what is actually going on in the water. Because, it's not like a dog or a cat where you can, or some livestock animal where you can just, you know, pull it out and just really inspect what is going on, you know, fish are a little different. So, and it can be frustrating trying to figure out what is going on, either with the water or the fish themselves. Excuse me. But anyways, that's about all I wanted to discuss in this video. You know, if you see this video and you have tips or suggestions or know, you know, maybe you've had this problem, maybe you could leave it in the comments and you know, help me figure out what's going on. Because I'm a little, you know, lost this time with this problem because it's been going on for a while. And when you treat the fish and then they seem fine for maybe a week or 2 weeks, and then, you know, you say there's a problem again. And so, but I'm going to try to be more consistent with the medicine this time and see if I can, you know, get rid of whatever is going on. But, like I said, I'll do another video later with, you know, more information on the other stuff pertaining to the ponds, and see if, sorry, stuff kept popping up on my screen, distracted me. Where was I? Oh, anyways, if I do decide to do a stream to this pond sometime this winter or before spring, I will try to make video and bring you along for that too. And so, I guess that's all for this video. Until next time, bye.